Hello, and welcome to the Perfect Franchise Podcast.
I'm Kris, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Andrea.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to help you discover all that franchising has to offer.
We'll explore expert strategies, interview successful franchise owners, and give you the tools to make informed decisions.
So whether you're considering your options or you're ready to take that plunge, we're here to support you every step of the way.
So let's jump into today's episode. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the TPF podcast. Today, Andrea and I are super excited to have Melissa and Rob Goldring, founders of Vital Stretch, the franchise, and developers of the proprietary Vital Stretch method. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kris. Thank you, Andrea.
Very nice to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. So start us out a little bit. Give us sort of the history of Vital Stretch. How did you come up with this? And then how did you kind of break into franchising with it?
Good question. So because we're clinicians at heart, right? So our first career is as a physical therapist and chiropractic physician. And in our business background, we've developed multidisciplinary practices. So back in the day, back in around 2017, 2018, we were still treating providers. And we were treating patients, obviously, through insurance, which is very driven care, right? So you're working on a shoulder, a knee, a hip, and you're very limited in what you're allowed to treat and for how long. So Rob and I put our heads together and we developed this Vital Stretch method really as an extended care for our patient base, providing a full body wellness solution. It was first brought to our patient base, as I said, and then it took off. So we decided to make it its own business and eventually franchise.
Yep. The decision to scale, the business was built for scaling. It was built with infrastructure. So really entering franchise was understanding if we wanted to expand utilizing a corporate model where we would expand where we are up here in the Northeast or bring it out to the country. And that's we're very glad that we did. We took that path and never looked back.
That's great. Thanks for that.
So, and so where are we now? How long have you been franchising? How many locations open? Just give us a sense of that.
Well, as of this week, we're at 54 locations awarded, and we're in 12 states.
Wow. Okay.
Great.
So let's lay the foundation here. I know I present Vital Stretch. I'm a big believer in the business model, but there's a lot of times when I first present it and I say Vital Stretch does professional assisted stretching, I get a look like, huh? So what is this? What is this, program that you developed it, and how does it fit in to, the bigger landscape, between other modalities like physical therapy and chiropractic? Like, talk to us about that.
So we take great pride in the method that we developed. When we put it together, it was really with an understanding of pain, injury, movement patterns, techniques that we utilized from our shared professions that include things like PNF stretching, fascial stretching, targeted mobility. We use isolated stabilization. So it's very much a custom tailored to you approach. Again, it's all clinically derived. It's evidence-based. Our method, the way we teach it, we have a signature triple tiered training system. It's pretty intense. The comments that we get from the VSPs, that's our Vital Stretch practitioners, when they go through classes, this is harder than I thought it would be, which is okay because we're developing semi-professionals, people who take a sense of pride in what they do, and they develop a following and they become high retention employees.
So just to add on to that a little bit, a lot of the questions that we get, do you have to be a physical therapist or do you have to be a chiropractor in order to, either own the business or to be a stretch practitioner? And the answer is no. We really prefer our franchisees, right? We want them to have a passion for what we're doing, right? And understand, the health and wellness aspect and certainly be passionate about that, but they certainly don't have to be a healthcare provider. And as for the Vital Stretch practitioners, we call them semi-professionals. We prefer that they have backgrounds in exercise science, exercise physiology, kinesiology. Many of them are personal trainers. They might be a student. However, that's not a requirement, right? So What's really important is that they're certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine in the stretch and flexibility course. That's sort of the preemptive aspect of our training. And then they are trained on our proprietary method.
Okay. If I could, can I follow up there, Andrea?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to make sure it's clear to the listeners and the viewers and to me. As a consumer, who should be going to Vital Stretch? When should they be going to Vital Stretch instead of physical therapy, instead of going to a massage therapist, instead of going to a chiropractor? When is Vital Stretch a better option than going, and how do those other options maybe fail the typical consumer? I'm trying to place assisted stretching in the continuum of different options so the viewers know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so keep in mind we developed the Vital Stretch as a wellness and fitness adjacent adjunct in our physical rehab practice, working hand in glove with the chiropractors and with the physical therapists. In our practice, and not everybody's, but not uncommon, both PT and chiro are injury based. They are problem focused. You're taking a person from point A to point B. So if you have an injury or some or any level of red flags, we want you to see a qualified PT. We want you to see a chiropractor. When you're cleared and you're focusing now more on wellness, on just keeping your general mobility, things that will enhance your lifestyle, dare I say, your vitality, that's where we fit into play. Our sessions are, we have our signature stretch session, which is 55 minutes of assisted stretch. It's a full body, fairly multivaried. You're not going to be getting that type of full body approach at the PT or the chiro. Typically, they're going to be more focused on an injured body part.
So again, just to focus in on the question a little bit further, we often get asked, who's your avatar, right? How do you market, that kind of thing? I think to your point, Kris, we have a wide variety of people that fall into this wellness category that we feel benefit from assisted stretching. That can be anyone from, a high school or college athlete, right, looking to increase their performance or enhance their recovery. It could be that you have a chronic injury, right? Not an acute injury, but a chronic injury that sort of gets you every once in a while. That shoulder stiffness and soreness from a prior injury that if you don't work on that mobility, you're going to get stiff and sore, right? It could be that middle-aged person. I know we sort of fall into this category because we still all do, right? So we like to be active and it's important to us, but we need a little more assistance in that so we're not in that stiff and sore category, right? And then we also have our graceful agers. So for the aging population who have different mobility goals, right? It might just be getting in and out of the car easier or getting up and down off the floor. Maybe they're golfers. Maybe they play pickleball. Ideal for them, right? To just maintain their posture and mobility.
That's helpful. Kind of, I think even just what you mentioned, Rob, kind of the difference between more of an acute injury versus keeping somebody flexible longer and chronic sort of pain that they maybe need to kind of stretch it out. So I think that was really helpful. So thank you for explaining that a little bit. It helped me a lot. So help me understand, there's a lot of stretching concepts out there, right? There's other franchises that do this. What's different about Vital Stretch?
Well, first I'll say I'm so glad to see that there is assisted stretch that's becoming awareness and part of, what people are participating with, because it's really, really helpful. We feel that it's a new lane in wellness and fitness, almost like the Pilates and yoga of 20 years ago. However, we are different. First is our method. It is clinically derived, it's evidence-based, it's multivariate, very much custom tailored. Our training is pretty in-depth. The goal being that if you get a stretch, whether it's in Connecticut or California, you know that your VSP is going to have a level of mastery and consistency. It's not going to be dependent upon who you get. The studios. Why don't you talk about the studio vibe?
So we pride ourselves on having a boutique sort of upscale look and feel to it. We designed our studios so that we have semi-private stretch sessions, which is very different from any other stretch concept out there. We feel that having that little bit of privacy allows you to more focus on what's happening to your body rather than what's happening next to you, right? So our studios have sort of a boutique upscale look and feel to it.
And then last, I would say, is our technology. We call it Vital Signs. It's a 3D posture and motion assessment. It uses something called markerless motion analysis. Basically, we could look at your movement, your motion, and we could identify areas where you have limited range of motion or you have imbalance from side to side. It informs us where to focus our stretching, but also gives an outcome so we can see your improvement, not just I'm feeling better, but measurable results.
And is that different than others? Does anyone else use that 3D technology?
So there is the 3D technology exists. So the closest that's out there is a single overhead squat, which is great. It's a great functional movement. Our flows are much more varied, much more in depth. It gives cross correlative information. It's easy to teach, easy to understand. And no, nobody else is doing it like that at all. Not even close.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. That's
Yeah.
great.
No, thank you. I'd like to change tacks now and talk more about the business and the franchise opportunities. So this is brick and mortar. Can you walk us through just the basics, what you're looking for in a location, how big it is, how many people are you employing on the first day of business? What's the revenue structure? I'm under the impression it's recurring revenue, membership base. Talk to the listeners a little bit about just the high points of the business model and what makes the business of Vital Stretch attractive.
I'll take that.
Sure. So from a physical space, it is a brick and mortar where you're going to find us anywhere from our sweet spot is about 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. We do go larger than that, and we do go smaller than that. The fit up itself, we have a team that helps you get the space selected. So when it comes to finding a great space, doing lease negotiations, all the procurement of everything inside the studio, we try to make it as very much straightforward as possible so that you can focus on the real business, which is developing your team and developing your membership. The business model is very simple. It is it's a monthly pass. So we understand that it's a membership, but at the end of the day, it's month to month. We say that we want to be there for as long as we're doing right by you. So our members have an opportunity if they want to increase the frequency of their service, if they want to decrease it, if they want to stop for any reason. What we find is, in actuality, we have a very high retention membership model. From a business perspective, that's really nice because I can look into my POS and based on the membership volume and spread, have a good sense of what our top line revenues are going to be. So we can manage our staffing accordingly, we can manage our expenses and make sure that we're maintaining healthy margins.
That's great. That's helpful. So when you think about your ideal candidate, you said somebody who has sort of a passion for this, but explain to me, what does their background typically look like? Is it somebody who is health and wellness, of the majority of them coming over from that? And are they looking at this as a full-time, semi-absentee opportunity?
Yeah, good question. So most of our franchise partners have come from corporate, right? It's a very common theme. Either they have just recently left corporate or it's their desire to leave corporate. So typically speaking, they have a lot of transferable skills, right? It could be in leadership, managing teams, that sort of thing is very helpful. But we call it semi-present model rather than semi-absentee model. So it doesn't mean they need to be 100% present, but there are sort of surges along the way where more time is required. Again, not 100% of their time, but sort of ebbs and flows as they're getting closer to opening and then just after opening. We feel it's an important thing that they, if they're going to be still in their corporate job, that they're, put some focus and time into building their team. That's a really important thing. And we have a mixture of those, right? So we have a mixture of people both in 100% and people that are still in their corporate positions.
Yeah, we coach that the secret to success of running a small business or multiple small businesses is developing a great team around you. It earns the right that you don't have to be there on a regular basis. When you have people that they know the operations, and they're not going to be when the cat's away, the mice will play. They want it as bad as you do.
I would say most people look at businesses and think the most important question is, how do I get customers? So as a Vital Stretch franchisee, how do they get customers? What's the marketing look like? What, as the owner, do they need to do? Does Vital Stretch offer any help there? Talk to us about the marketing and what it takes to build up that membership.
All right, this will take up the rest of our time because we are deep in marketing. We have some pretty strong strategies for that.
Okay.
Just to start it off, so we believe in a multi-funnel approach, right? Never rely on any one aspect of marketing, because there's always ebbs and flows when it comes to marketing, whether it's digital, or boots on the ground. We do believe in a lot of grassroots marketing. We are a community-based business, so we do encourage our franchise partners to sort of get out in the community, right? And a lot of them, that's their desire anyway, coming into it. They do want to be part of their community. So we encourage them, get out in your community, get to know other businesses, other small businesses in your area. We have a whole, we call it master coaching approach to that, which we guide through our franchise partners.
Yeah, I would just add on to that without giving away too much of the secret sauce, our digital strategies are very unique in how we approach it. It is relatively turnkey. The aspects that the local need, the boots on the ground that Melissa was referring to, strategic alliances, community relations, local social, that we do coach to, and we also train to, and that's really more for whoever's the manager of that studio would be.
Yeah. So when you say boots on the ground, strategic alliances, I automatically think about physical therapists and chiropractors, because that's how this started, right? You guys had a physical therapy. This was very complementary within your own business. Is it realistic to think that franchisees can go out and have that same symbiotic relationship with other physical therapists and chiropractors? Can you really pass business back and forth that way?
Yes, it's one funnel of many. So as far as referrals are concerned, we just believe, Kris, Andrea, do the right thing. So we teach the red flag. So if somebody comes into our studio and for any of a number of reasons it's not appropriate or potentially inappropriate to stretch them, we want to get them, or at least make the recommendation to get them to a professional. What we find is that those professionals appreciate that. They value that we really put the person, the human being that's there first. Now, does this lead to a good referral relationship? Absolutely, because it instills a level of trust. However, there's also other strategic alliances. There's other boutique fitness. So from a fitness perspective, we see assisted stretch as fitness adjacent. Whether you're doing cycling, running, boxing, you name it, stretching is part and parcel of that. And we play a very important role. And we often work hand in glove with a lot of our boutique fitness facilities that are out there, local YMCA, you name it. We're part of that fitness community.
That's great. So, one of the things I do hear from some clients is they get nervous about any kind of hands-on wellness service and potential sort of liability there. And I know, so how does Vital Stretch handle that? And that's from a client perspective, as well as sort of, potential franchisees thinking about this. How do we picture, what are you doing to kind of reduce that risk? And is there a risk there?
Yeah, that's also a great question. So that's why our first level of training is through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. It is an accredited agency, and again, they first have to go through the stretch and flexibility course to get certified in that. So when they are certified through that program, from a liability perspective, that does allow them to put their hands on people and stretch people. We take it couple steps further within our proprietary training, however, and there is a hands-on and in-person component to that as well.
Yeah, when we say that our method is clinically derived evidence-based, It means that we teach and we train. Our method is about providing the most effective stretch that's the safest stretch that's out there. I'm proud to say that after all these years, we have 0 claims against us. We're good at what we do. Needless to say, you won't have liability insurance. It's inexpensive because we have little to no exposure. So, but it's America. So you have liability insurance just in case.
Yeah. You always need it in any business, right? It's not just you. We always tell people you're going to need it with pretty much any business.
Yes.
Right.
That's great.
Yep.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Well, guys, before we wrap it up, we always like to end our podcast asking a couple of rapid fire questions. And so what I want you to do now is take off your Vital Stretch hat, and just as experienced entrepreneurs, folks that are experienced in franchising in general, we're looking for 2 pieces of advice. The first one is, what would you tell somebody? What's one piece of advice you tell somebody who's seriously considering buying a franchise, any franchise? What's one piece of advice you'd give them?
Go for something that you're passionate about, right? Go for something that excites you, something maybe you want to learn more about. Whatever it is in whatever field, whatever aspect, do something that you get joy from.
I say it's rules of how to get through high school. Show up, ask a lot of questions, do your homework.
We all know that first year in franchising, when you buy a franchise and start any business, that first year is full of ups and downs. So if you were talking to that person, they bought a franchise, they're in their first year, they're riding that roller coaster. What's one piece of advice, guidance you could give them?
I think, there's a lot of advice in that first year, right? But I think, again, kind of going back to what Rob was just saying, just be present, right? Learn as much as you can and ask a lot of questions, right? Gather the support that's around you. Whether, I know we offer a lot of support to those franchisees because it's very important. None of them have been small business owners, right? That's all new, no matter what transferable skills they have. So ask questions and gather that support.
Yeah, year 1, follow the system. The whole idea of what a good franchise does is we squeeze the inefficiencies out of business. Take that, run with it. Some years down the road, you're going to be better at it than whatever franchise system, and then you can really start contributing and adding to the value of the system as a whole.
That's right.
That's great.
That's good
Yeah.
advice.
Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. I think this has been really helpful. You just opened a studio right up the road for me, so I'm excited. And I think, really that lens where you showed us sort of the difference between PT, chiropractic, what you think about more injury based, and where you're pivoting more to kind of that preventative for somebody that is middle-aged, starting to play pickleball right here. I hear you. So I really appreciate this. I think it's really great. And the program that you've developed sounds amazing. I think the training and support sound really great. So thank you, Melissa and Rob. We appreciate your time today. So if you're thinking about franchising, remember that while there's no one size fits all, the perfect franchise for you is definitely out there. To explore your options, visit theperfectfranchise.com and click on Let's Talk to schedule a call with one of the consultants on the Perfect Franchise team. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode.